Desperation turns to terror as Tu Yujiao attempts to manipulate Liang Yulin into saving her, unaware that her staged kidnapping has invited a deadly threat onto the royal path. The charade collapses into violence. Liang Yulin sees through the scheme, and as the masked attackers reveal their true identity as Ji warriors, the battlefield erupts into a chaotic skirmish. Just as the situation turns dire, Xiao Hanzheng arrives with his precision archers to turn the tide, ensuring Liang Yulin remains safe while Tu Yujiao is hauled away to face justice for her treasonous gamble. The consequences of betrayal reach the Tu family household. Xiao Hanzheng sits in judgment, dismantling the family's reputation with cold, hard proof of their daughter's collusion with foreign enemies. Under interrogation, Tu Yujiao faces the truth of her catastrophic choices. Her attempt to secure a royal marriage has instead shattered her family's social standing and future prospects. Internal strife tears the Tu family apart. As the weight of their disgrace settles, Master Tu vents his fury, consigning his wife and daughter to misery as the family's influence evaporates. Regret comes too late for the matriarch. Madame Tu, stripped of her status and isolated by her own household, faces the bitter reality that her ambition has led only to ruin. Innovation blooms in Northern City. Shi Qingluo and Xiao Hanzheng launched the Artisan Academy, offering hope and opportunity to the common people through education and specialized labor. Breaking traditional barriers, young women across the region fight for their right to learn, inspired by the prospect of financial independence and a life beyond domestic servitude. While the academy thrives, the shadows of conflict loom. A sudden report from the frontier reveals a devastating trap that has left Xiao Hanzheng's father crippled, signaling the start of a brutal war. Betrayal from within has paved the way for disaster. Xiao Hanzheng uncovers the conspiracy of a trusted deputy, whose secret loyalties have left the border vulnerable and his own father broken. In the quiet of their home, Shi Qingluo and Xiao Hanzheng decide to let the truth devastate his father. They agree that the weight of regret will be the harshest retribution for his past failings. Turning toward progress, Zai Rui demonstrates his mechanical genius. His creation of a functional tricycle sparks a vision in Shi Qingluo for a new transportation network across the land. The streets of Northern City begin to transform. Shi Qingluo sees the potential for a car rental industry, a humble beginning to a venture that promises to revolutionize travel and trade. A bond blossoms over iron and grease. Zai Rui takes Xiao Bailey and Erlang on a maiden voyage, his heart racing with a newfound, earnest affection that defies his past as a dandy. In a moment of simple intimacy, the distance between Zai Rui and Xiao Bailey disappears. Her kindness touches him deeply, fueling his resolve to become a man worthy of her admiration. The sweet respite is short-lived. A messenger arrives with news of a fresh, large-scale invasion, pulling Xiao Hanzheng and Shi Qingluo back into the brutal reality of an impending war. News of the third prince's dire condition reaches the northern city, sending a tremor of instability through the region. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Xiao Hanzheng decides to lead a relief force himself, knowing the defense of the border now rests on his shoulders. With the northern city gripped by panic, Shi Qingluo steps into the role of a leader. She organizes a donation drive to gather vital resources, while secretly preparing specialized supplies in her interspace to ensure Xiao Hanzheng has every advantage when he arrives at the front lines. Upon reaching the border, Xiao Hanzheng immediately asserts his command, shifting the momentum of the conflict. His first order of business is a tense encounter with Xiao Yuanxi, who now sits crippled in a wheelchair, awaiting the son he once discarded. The confrontation turns bitter as Xiao Hanzheng offers a brutal diagnosis. He makes no attempt to hide his disdain, admitting that he is intentionally withholding mercy to force Xiao Yuanxi to reckon with the consequences of his past actions. Desperate for revenge against those who betrayed him, Xiao Yuanxi attempts to manipulate his son. He offers his entire network of influence in the northern border in exchange for Xiao Hanzheng destroying his rivals. A deal is struck, though not out of filial love. Xiao Hanzheng accepts the offer, seeing the intelligence network as a tactical asset for his own plans, leaving a bitter and regretful Xiao Yuanxi alone in his tent. With the intelligence from Xiao Yuanxi in hand, Xiao Hanzheng meticulously prepares his next move. planning to use the traitorous deputy as an unwitting pawn in a larger game against the Ji kingdom. As anticipated, the Ji forces ambush the supply transport, only to discover they have been tricked by Shi Qingluo's clever decoy operation. The humiliation of the enemy is complete, leaving them chasing shadows while the real supplies move undetected. News spreads through the northern city that the enemy's raid failed completely. Public sentiment shifts from panic to adoration for Shi Qingluo, whose reputation as a brilliant strategist grows with every passing day. The trap closes as Xiao Hanzheng intercepts the enemy scouts. With ruthless efficiency, he eliminates the threat and captures those who surrender, turning the tide of the skirmish. Reunited in the field, the pair coordinates their final plan. Despite the skepticism of the surrounding generals, Shi Qingluo maintains her unwavering resolve to deliver supplies directly to the besieged third prince. The generals remain unconvinced, believing the mission to be impossible given the tight encirclement of the enemy. Yet, Shi Qingluo stands firm, inviting them simply to wait and witness the results of her legendary training. Tensions rise within the camp as senior generals question Xiao Hanzheng's trust in his wife's seemingly impossible plan. Fearing for the lives of the soldiers, they demand a more conventional approach, but Xiao Hanzheng refuses to waver. Across the line, Yi Luidong views the situation with arrogant mockery, firmly believing that no human can penetrate his impenetrable blockade. He waits, eager to see the destruction of his opponent's reputations. As the sun hangs in the sky, a strange movement captures the attention of the enemy guards. The impossible is about to happen, leaving everyone to wonder, is that a bird or something else? Against the backdrop of the desolate borderlands, an impossible sight defies the laws of nature. A figure, clad in strange, wing-like contraptions, descends from the clouds like a great bird, landing gracefully atop the fortifications of the beleaguered border town, leaving observers both friend and foe in total shock. Whispers of immortality and divine intervention ripple through the camp. While soldiers debate if the arrival is a celestial being or a sorceress, Xiao Hanzheng stands as the calm center, acknowledging the rumors of his wife's master while carefully downplaying the true nature of the technology she employs. The enemy commander, sensing that the tide of the conflict is shifting, reinforces the perimeter. He fears that the arrival of Shi Qingluo is more than just a spectacle. It is the catalyst for a desperate, unified strike from the beleaguered city. With the grace of a falling leaf, Shi Qingluo touches down. As she sheds her mechanical wings and presents the golden goose token, the fear of the garrison transforms into a sudden, electric surge of hope. The legendary Princess Fubao has arrived. Word of her miraculous descent travels faster than a falcon. Within the walls of the small, crumbling military town, the soldiers, who once expected a lonely, starving death, now find their spirits reignited by the presence of the woman whispered to be the disciple of an immortal. Finding the third prince in a death-like slumber, Shi Qingluo produces the antidote formulated by her husband. As the medicine is administered, she prepares the city for a transformation, her presence serving as a beacon of salvation against the encroaching enemy. The third prince, finally conscious, learns of the grand plan to break the siege. He struggles with the reality of their starving forces, but Shi Qingluo speaks with a conviction that suggests miracles are merely a matter of time and divine planning. Before a vacant warehouse, a performance of divine mystery unfolds. Shi Qingluo invokes her master, burning incense that turns to ash at an impossible speed, leaving the skeptical soldiers and officials bewildered by what they perceive to be an act of genuine sorcery. As the warehouse doors groan open, the impossible becomes visible. Where there was only air and dust moments before, sacks of grain and essential supplies now fill the room, convincing even the most cynical of hearts that they are under the protection of something far greater than themselves. With the supplies secured and the third prince's loyalty confirmed, Shi Qingluo takes command. She pushes aside the past betrayals of the prince and demands a hardened resolve, turning the focus of the command post toward the upcoming, decisive counterattack. Recognizing that the survival of the city rests on a coordinated strike, Shi Qingluo asserts her authority to lead the defense. The soldiers, no longer blinded by gender bias but swayed by the miracle of the food, accept her leadership as the key to their salvation. The aroma of hot food fills the city, dispelling the stench of despair. As the men eat their fill, the lethargy of starvation is replaced by a fierce hunger for battle, their morale climbing as they prepare to follow the woman who delivered them from the brink. The rumor mill of the camp reaches a fever pitch. Every soldier now believes the grain was a gift from an immortal, and this collective belief acts as a powerful psychological weapon, ensuring that Shi Qingluo has absolute, unquestioning control over the army. While the soldiers sharpen their resolve, the internal purge begins. Every attempt by the enemy to gain intelligence is crushed by the vigilant guards, leaving the Ji Kingdom commanders in a state of growing, agonizing uncertainty. Silence falls over the border city, a silence that terrifies the enemy. With their spies captured and no news flowing outward, the opposing forces realize that something has changed within the walls, and the impending dawn promises a reckoning they are entirely unprepared for. As tensions mount at the border, the intelligence network becomes a battlefield of its own. Xiao Hanzheng deciphers the eerie silence from the enemy lines, sensing his wife's invisible hand at work, while Shi Qingluo, now clad in armor, prepares to signal the turning of the tide. With the third prince recovered, and by her side, Shi Qingluo watches the enemy through her binoculars. She knows that a simple messenger pigeon, flying high above, will serve as the catalyst for Xiao Hanzheng to strike while the Ji Kingdom remains blind to their impending doom. The trap is sprung, but the prey is not so easily caught. Xiao Hanzheng showcases his tactical genius, deploying a brilliant shield wall assembly that leaves the enemy commander Yi Luidong in shock, proving that the scholar general is always one step ahead. The clash of steel rings out as Xiao Hanzheng faces Yi Luidong in personal combat. As the battle intensifies, Shi Qingluo prepares to unleash a secret weapon, one that will rewrite the rules of this ancient war. The sky falls in fire and shadow. Shi Qingluo directs the launch of explosive charges, their thunderous detonations shattering the Ji Kingdom's confidence and forcing the enemy into a panicked retreat. Victory is within reach as Xiao Hanzheng deploys his elite Holy Arrow Battalion. The precision of their crossbows and the sheer coordination of their assault leave the enemy leaders falling one after another, unable to stem the tide. The hunter becomes the hunted. Xiao Hanzheng methodically dismantles Yi Luidong's defenses, arrow by arrow, forcing the proud commander to hide behind the bodies of his own men to survive the onslaught. Broken and humiliated, Yi Luidong makes a desperate final play. He turns his focus toward Shi Qingluo, hoping that capturing her will force Xiao Hanzheng to yield. He underestimates the woman standing before him. With death closing in, Shi Qingluo raises her voice to the heavens, calling upon her master. What the enemy perceives as madness is actually a calculated strike, as explosives materialize from nowhere to blast their charging ranks. Superstition turns to pure terror. The sight of explosives descending from an empty sky convinces the Ji soldiers that divine power has intervened. Yi Luidong, narrowly avoiding death, orders a frantic retreat. The battlefield erupts in triumph. As the dust settles, Xiao Hanzheng and Shi Qingluo meet on the blood-stained earth, their embrace a testament to a victory won through strategy, trust, and a perfectly executed myth. They are the immortal couple of legend, their reputation sealed in blood and awe. The army looks upon Xiao Hanzheng and Shi Qingluo with unshakable faith, knowing that under their banner, the future of the nation is secure. Back within the city walls, the hierarchy is restored with honor. Xiao Hanzheng gracefully returns the commander's seal to Liang Hengxiao, but the third prince, recognizing true talent, insists that he keep it, forging a bond of deep mutual respect. The generals, hungry for more divine intervention, question Shi Qingluo about her master's powers. She deftly manages their expectations, framing the immortal's influence to ensure political stability for the throne. With the emperor honored and the enemy routed, Shi Qingluo and Xiao Hanzheng stand together as architects of a new era. The war is far from over, but the myth they have woven ensures their enemies will think twice before challenging them again. Shi Qingluo solidifies the soldiers' morale by weaving tales of her immortal master's divine intervention, turning the tide of doubt into unshakable confidence among the high-ranking generals. With a chilling sense of calculated vengeance, Xiao Hanzheng reveals that he has poisoned the Ji Kingdom's commander, Yi Luidong, ensuring their enemy will soon be incapacitated. In the heart of the enemy camp, the arrogant Yi Luidong falls into a deep, deathly coma, leaving his generals in a state of utter panic as they realize they have been outplayed by a master of toxins. Xiao Hanzheng scouts the enemy position, identifying a fatal flaw in their terrain that allows the Daliang army to employ a devastating fire attack under the cover of night. Chaos erupts as oil-soaked arrows ignite the G-camp. The trap snaps shut, forcing the survivors into a desperate retreat that leads them straight into the waiting blades of the Daliang forces. Strategically choosing to let the incapacitated Yi Luidong escape, Xiao Hanzheng ensures that the enemy remains leaderless, maintaining the tactical advantage for the final stages of the campaign. On the front lines, disaster strikes as Zai Rong is nearly overwhelmed, only to be saved by a shocking act of self-sacrifice from Yu Lu, who takes a fatal wound in her stead. Just as all hope seems lost, Xiao Hanzheng bursts onto the battlefield like a vengeful storm, his arrival turning the tide and sending the demoralized enemy into a chaotic rout. Saved from the brink of death, Zai Rong wakes up in a quiet tent, anxious for the fate of her protector, unaware that his survival rests entirely on the medical prowess of the couple she trusts most. As Yu Lu regains consciousness, the raw vulnerability of their interaction reveals a deep, undeniable affection that surprises even the observant Shi Qingluo. Returning to the intimacy of their own space, Shi Qingluo and Xiao Hanzheng share a moment of connection, discussing both the war's end and their private hopes for a future together. With the border situation stabilizing, the couple finds a brief respite from the horrors of war, grounding their grand ambitions in the simple, shared dream of building a family. The capital erupts with joyous news of the northern victories, leaving the emperor both relieved and deeply impressed by the unexpected military genius of his top scholar. King Yi finds himself in a jubilant, boastful mood, openly flaunting the success of his beloved Xiao Hanzheng to the jealous and begrudging ministers of the court. The court meeting takes a personal turn as King Yi pushes for official recognition of his family's bond with the Kong family, to the humorous chagrin of the emperor. With total victory in sight, the debate now shifts to the future of the northern defense, as the emperor contemplates formalizing the command of the man who saved the nation. In the heart of the capital, the powerful ministers of the imperial court engaged in a fierce tug-of-war, each coveting the tactical genius Xiao Hanzheng and the legendary influence of Shi Qingluo to bolster their own departments, while the emperor watched with a knowing, calculated gaze. Far from the opulence of the capital, a shadow lingered over a clandestine gathering where Zhuo Zheng and his cohorts plotted to exploit Xiao Bailey and Xiao Hanyi as pawns, hoping to turn the tide of the war against the rising star of the border lords. Fate took a dark turn in the quietude of the household when Xiao Bailey received a sinister, blood-stained missive, a trap designed to draw her into the fray, unaware that the eyes of her enemies were already fixed upon her. Refusing to succumb to panic, Xiao Bailey channeled the resilience instilled in her by Shi Qingluo, cautiously ordering her guards to verify the safety of her brother rather than blindly rushing to the kidnapper's demand. As the conflict escalated in the narrow alleys of North City, Zai Rui proved his worth, arriving just in time to rescue a calm and collected Xiao Hanyi from a relentless swarm of attackers, exposing the treachery hidden within the guards' ranks. With the treacherous plot unraveled, Xiao Hanyi returned to his home, welcomed by the tearful embrace of Mother Xiao and Xiao Bailey, his youthful spirit replaced by the stern, calculating resolve of a survivor. In the aftermath, Zhuo Zheng watched his grand ambitions crumble into ash, realizing too late that the intellectual sharpness of the young siblings had turned his calculated snare into his own monumental mistake. Under the decisive direction of Xiao Hanyi, Liang Minjiu orchestrated a swift raid, successfully apprehending Zhuo Zheng and dragging the remnants of the previous dynasty into the cold reality of justice. The confrontation within the King Jin manor proved devastating, as Zhuo Zheng witnessed the shattered remains of his father's power, meeting only a chilling, scornful silence from the heir Liang Minjiu, who now controlled their fate. News of the capture reached the front lines via a swift avian messenger, prompting Shi Qingluo to rush to the command tent, where she presented Xiao Hanzheng with the critical information that would turn the tide of the entire northern campaign. With the treacherous plot to open the city gates exposed, Xiao Hanzheng unveiled a masterstroke of strategy to his generals, turning the enemy's calculated move into a fatal trap of his own making. Behind the stone walls of the border city, Xiao Yuanqi grappled with the stinging truth of his past choices as he read his son's brilliant tactical instructions, realizing his own incompetence compared to the greatness of his rejected child. Executing the plan with clockwork precision, Shi Qingluo took command in the shadows, orchestrating the deployment of elite troops to secure the perimeter and wait for the enemy to walk blindly into their waiting destruction. While his wife managed the trap, Xiao Hanzheng personally confronted the duplicitous elements within the city, systematically dismantling the enemy's influence and securing the loyalty of his commanders before the final assault. As the enemy forces poured into the city, Shi Qingluo released the signal, unleashing a torrent of arrows that transformed the city into a death trap, systematically dismantling the invading Ji Kingdom army. Witnessing the masterful command of Shi Qingluo, Xiao Yuanqi was left in a state of solemn realization. His pride burned away by the undeniable brilliance of the woman he once scorned and the son he had so foolishly discarded. Across the front, the tactical genius of Xiao Hanzheng culminated in absolute victory, his swift and decisive strikes earning him the undying respect of the soldiers and crushing the hopes of the enemy once and for all. Under the cover of night, Xiao Hanzheng and Shi Qingluo successfully rendezvoused their troops near the target city, utilizing the dense mountain terrain to maintain the element of surprise while boosting soldier morale with promised rewards and improved gear. The North King's heir, overconfident in his assault, found his forces completely ensnared in a brilliant trap set by Xiao Hanzheng, leading to the total collapse of the Ji Kingdom's offensive and the capture of their high-ranking officers. Faced with rapid territorial losses and the unexpected military prowess of the new war god of Dalian, the Ji Kingdom's panic turned into desperate calls for a truce, marking a historic and surprising shift in the regional power balance. As peace talks moved toward resolution and the couple prepared for their return, a quiet, intimate moment during dinner was suddenly interrupted by a wave of nausea, leaving Xiao Hanzheng in a state of frantic worry for his wife. The mystery of the morning's sickness was solved when Xiao Hanzheng confirmed a happy pulse, bringing a new, profound sense of joy and anticipation to their lives as they began to embrace the prospect of becoming parents. With meticulous planning, Xiao Hanzheng described his successful psychological warfare against the North Prince's mansion, where his clever sowing of discord had led to the downfall of those who had once schemed against his family. As Xiao Hanzheng returned to the city where his father lived, Xiao Yuanqi emerged, crippled and broken, driven by ego and a desire to redirect his simmering hatred toward those he felt were responsible for his misfortune. A final transaction of information sealed the rift, as Xiao Hanzheng confirmed the success of his schemes, leaving Xiao Yuanqi to grapple with the bitter irony of his own situation compared to his son's meteoric rise. The emperor's decision to grant Xiao Yuanqi an inheritable title was recognized by Xiao Hanzheng and Shi Qingluo as abiding, poetic justice, a gift that highlighted the permanence of his inability to leave a legacy. As a new imperial edict arrived, Xiao Hanzheng was officially reassigned, setting the stage for their triumphant return to the capital and marking the final, calculated retirement of Xiao Yuanqi to his ancestral hometown. The departure from the border was marked by deep regret from his comrades, who had come to view Xiao Hanzheng not just as an official, but as a true hero, while Xiao Yuanqi watched from behind, consumed by silent resentment. The homecoming in North City was an explosion of public adoration, as the citizens celebrated the safe return of their champions, a stark contrast to the bitterness festering within Xiao Yuanqi as he observed the reverence shown to his son. Upon returning to the mansion, Xiao Yuanqi was greeted by a performative display of family concern, immediately recognizing the shallow, manipulative nature of the Xiao family's false affection. Observing the coldness of his own house, Tao Liu felt a sense of relief in her decision to break free from the toxicity of the Xiao family, choosing a future for her daughter far away from Xiao Yuanqi's reach. Under the mentorship of Shi Qingluo, Zai Rui's rise to the position of Dean of the Craftsman College surprised the capital, transforming him from a playful dandy into a respected figure of innovation. In the capital, the success of the Zai family ignited a bitter rivalry, as old Master Zai took great pleasure in mocking the jealousy of other nobles while defending his grandson's new, prestigious reputation. Recognizing the positive influence of Xiao Hanzheng and Xiao Bailey, the parents of Zai Rui felt a surge of pride, realizing that their son had finally found his purpose and a partner worthy of his growth. As Xiao Hanzheng's influence in the empire grows, the capital descends into a frenzy of political maneuvering. Princes scramble to find ways to bind their families to his, seeing his ascent as a ladder to ultimate power. With the imperial edict for her wedding to King Yi delivered, Kong Yuelan prepares for her new life, guided by palace servants sent by a royal suitor eager to demonstrate his devotion. Before departing for the capital, Shi Qingluo lures the greedy old Madame Xiao and her daughters-in-law into a trap, expertly planting the seeds of vanity to steer their fate precisely where she wants them. With delicate precision, Shi Qingluo manipulates the vanity of old Madame Xiao, convincing her that the only path to glory for her family lies in inheriting a noble title through the disgraced Xiao Yuanxi. The bait is set. Madame Wang and Madame Wu begin to fantasize about the prestige and wealth that a noble title would bring their sons, oblivious to the fact that they are mere puppets in Shi Qingluo's game. The old woman's heart burns with sudden fervor. She sees a future where she returns to her hometown not as a failed immigrant, but as a matriarch of nobility, basking in the envy of all who once doubted her. Having successfully turned the Xiao family's pride against their own son, Shi Qingluo watches as her trap snaps shut, ensuring that Xiao Yuanxi will be plagued by his own kin. By framing the protection of the family fortune as a struggle for their own survival, Shi Qingluo compels the elders to confront Xiao Yuanxi, effectively blocking his plans to discard them. Caught off guard, Xiao Yuanxi is met with a wall of feigned parental concern as the elderly couple forces their presence upon him, under the guise of wanting to care for their beloved son. Unable to overcome the combined pressure of his parents and the threat of public scandal, Xiao Yuanxi is forced to concede, realizing he has been outplayed. Suspicious that he has been manipulated, Xiao Yuanxi suspects the hand of his daughter-in-law, yet he finds himself completely ensnared by his own mother's desperate performative piety. To rid himself of his family's interference, Xiao Yuanxi agrees to the arrangement, leaving Tao Liu and his daughter behind in the north, unknowingly stripping himself of his last true allies. The journey to the capital is completed, and Xiao Hanzheng is greeted by the emperor with distinct favor, cementing his status and leaving the court in awe of his rising star. A quiet moment between the couple reveals a joyous secret. Shi Qingluo is carrying twins, a discovery that binds them even closer in anticipation of their growing family. Contrary to expectations, the Empress Dowager finds herself charmed by Kong Yuelan, solidifying the union and shaming those who hope to see the bride fall into social disgrace. The scale of the betrothal gifts from King Yi leaves the capital in shock, a final declaration of his love that ensures Kong Yuelan will be treated with the highest honor, as the city watches in jealous silence.